Hello, I'm Dr. Cheryl, and welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl.
Our show is raising the consciousness and awareness in the relationship with wealth and applying unconditional love. Always remember that your present situation is not your final destination, but the best is yet to come. Tonight we have a live-to-air show, and our theme is the wealth of humor and the wealth of wisdom. Our special guest this evening is Steve Bhaerman, a.k.a. known as Swami Beyondananda, internationally known author, humorist, and workshop leader. For more than 25 years, he has written and performed as Swami Beyondananda, the cosmic comic. Swami's comedy has been described both as comedy disguised as wisdom and wisdom disguised as comedy. Noted author Marianne Williamson has called him the Mark Twain of our generation. Since 2005, Steve has written a political blog with a spiritual perspective, Notes from the Trail. His latest book, written with cellular biologist Bruce H. Lipton, Ph.D., is Spontaneous Evolution, Our Positive Future, and a Way to Get There from Here. He can be found on wakinguplaughing.com. Thank you, Steve, for coming. Oh my gosh, it's an honor for you to be here.
It is. I am honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And you did great. Beyondananda, it's a hard name, but it's an Italian name. It just rolls off the tongue.
I've been practicing.
Beyondananda. and my website is Wake Up Laughing.
Wake Up.
We got this waking up thing in common.
Yes, we sure do. We sure do. I've given just a little part of your bio, but I wanted to start out with telling us about Steve, and we'll go from Steve to Swami.
Okay.
So please tell us where you're from and how, you know.
You mean this lifetime on this planet? I spent my deformative years in New York. Where everybody picks up.
So you're a New Yorker?
I'm from Brooklyn.
Oh my, we don't sound like it.
Well, that's because in my neighborhood we talk like this. Yes, I grew up in the projects. And humor was something, thank goodness, I grew up in a family that really appreciated humor. My dad was a natural comic. And what I noted about his humor is it never hurt anybody. He was always able to, he did a lot of dialects and voices and great storyteller. And so I learned, you know, I just remember being a little kid, like maybe 3, 4 years old, in my grandparents' apartment in Brooklyn with all of the relatives around, and everybody's laughing and laughing and laughing. And so I must have got this through osmosis or cosmosis or something. And so as a kid, I was the class comedian. And
so you've always been this way?
Well, the way you know that that's your calling, it's the first time you're in the lunchroom and you make another kid laugh so hard that milk comes out of their nose. That is like the sign from God.
You said that he was peeing his pants.
Oh, well, we didn't look down that far. But speaking of peeing, if you ignore the sign of milk, when 2 green peas come out of the nose laughing, that is the mega sign of you're called for this. And like so many other people, I was told to get serious. I'm sure everybody, you're all told to get serious, right? And so I really tried. I tried. I'm in college trying to be serious. And I'm in a sociology lecture. Very, very, very boring. And there's about 250 other very bored people. And I'm in this space somewhere between sleep and deep sleep. And the professor, she's talking about social mores. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my ear, I hear her ask, can anybody please define for us social mores?
Oh, that was your ticket.
That was my ticket. And before I knew it, I'm up in what's kind of like a comedic Tourette's. What came out was, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. I did that.
Oh, what was the expression on his face?
Well, her face.
Her face.
She was not amused. Everybody else just burst out laughing. And she gave me a D in the class for that.
Oh, wow.
But I earned a D. Very rarely do people earn Ds, and I did. I earned that D. And so I started a career in education, determined not to do to them what was done to me. I started an alternative high school, And I was teaching at Wayne State University, teaching labor history to auto workers. And a funny thing happened. And, you know, often a funny thing that happens is not that funny.
That must have been boring for you.
Oh, no, I loved it. I loved it. They were really fun. We had a great time. They'd bring their wives to class because it was the most interesting thing happening for them. And, but I got laid off because they had to place some, you know, tenured professors.
Was this in New York?
That was in Michigan,
Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
So I moved to Ann Arbor, and the only job I could get was doing tree work for the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I was taking down trees that had Dutch elm disease. And my Jewish mother, bless her, and this is true, I'm not making this up, she actually thought, she was concerned because she thought I would catch Dutch elm disease.
Oh, yeah, well.
I said, Mom, people don't get Dutch elm disease. Dogs get it. She goes, dogs get it. She was worried about Buster. She says, what happens to dogs? I said, they lose their bark. So while I was doing this tree work job, a fellow worker, brilliant psychologist disguised as a truck driver, got the idea that we should start a newspaper. So we started an anonymous, humorous newspaper for the guys at the shop, where we actually able to tell the truth, create novelty, turn the workplace upside down.
I bet you had a lot of material.
We had nothing but material living in the material world. We had a lot of it. And it totally changed the workplace. And we had this one Foreman Don, who was our nemesis, you know, and he was a tough Marine, and we were just always at odds with Foreman Don. It was always in the paper. And so this is like in the late 70s. So a couple of months ago, I had a reunion with my coworker, Larry. And he said, you know, over the years, I became friends with Don. And Don used to say, boy, do I miss that paper. I wish you guys were still doing that paper. Because it created playfulness, novelty, and so on. And that was, I go, wow, I'm good at this. I can do this. Yeah. And that got me started on this humor path.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
A funny thing happened, and that's how it started.
So do you think you've always been funny?
Well, this morning I woke up with a funny feeling. So I think that that's always been something that has been a tool for me. And I know that I was probably the person who overused it, who used humor as a defense, who didn't really recognize when I was being mean, because I'm from New York. You know, in New York, you insult people. You insult your friends. If you don't insult your friends in New York, they get insulted.
So do you handle challenges or things that you know are crises, whatever, with humor?
When I remember to. Every now and then, first I do tantrum yoga. That's a Swami technique, to use your anger to heat your home in the wintertime. You can do that. But I find that generally humor will work its way in. And what happens when humor works its way in is that it creates a space between reality and your personality. It creates a space where you're actually the observer. And when you look at what a silly goose you've been, or you're being, you can begin to laugh at that. Yeah. And you know, it certainly helped in my relationship with Trudy over the last 28 years, and both of us having, being able to use humor as a way to release the tension and remember the joy that's behind life. You know?
And Trudy is his wife of 28 years?
She's only 28 years old, that's right. We were married when she was 0. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think you actually are born with humor?
I think that some people are. I think I certainly had a talent for it, like there are people who have musical talent or sports talent or artistic talent. And at the same time, I think that it can be cultivated. I think it can be cultivated. I've taught humor. I've taught, you know, quote unquote, serious people how to begin to appreciate humor. And then all of a sudden, there's what we call a farce field. And the farce field is where jokes show up by magic simply because you have intention and you're not trying. As you know, in any endeavor, the harder you try, the worse it is.
That's right.
So when you surrender and stop trying, I have a friend who's very, very, very serious. And so what
The opposite of you.
Well, he's a good friend. And what he decided to do was to take a clowning class to bring out his humor. And for him, this clown teacher was abusive. It was abuse. He was being abused until finally he surrendered, and he was hilarious.
Oh, okay.
You know, the word humor, the word human, humor, humility, humiliation, and humus all come from the same root.
I didn't know hummus came from that.
Not hummus.
I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
This is funny. This happened. We were in Louisville, Kentucky years ago at some event in. They had kind of healthy food there, and I pointed to something and I said, "What's that?" And the woman said, "Well, that's humus." And I said, "You know, if you called it hummus, you'll sell more."
Yeah.
But there is something about humor and humiliation. And in a certain regard, it's a way to remember our humility so that we're not humiliated. So a few years ago, I'm visiting, Trudy and I are visiting her sister, who lives on a lake in Michigan. And there was kind of like a bonfire after dinner. And it was kind of like the Michigan working class lake crowd there. And I see that there's an errant ember from the bonfire, so I go to kick it back on. What I didn't realize was that I was standing right by the edge of the lake. And in a second, I am waist deep in the water. I plunge into the water. And, you know, and before anybody could say anything, I'm bailed out by Trudy's sister Rita. And she says, "You have been baptized. Are you saved?" And I went, "I am saved." And we went into this whole routine. And instead of being humiliated because I did a stupid thing and fell in the water, all of a sudden everybody's laughing with me.
You have a
and we
stick
turned
with
it.
it.
What?
You have a stick.
A stick. We turned it into a stick because of her sister taking the cue. And so it wasn't humiliating, although it was humbling.
Yes, it
As a guy said, "Well, is this part of your comedy routine?" I said, "Not intentionally, just today." For you, I've done this.
Yeah, yeah.
I took one for the team.
I think it's great when you can turn an accident or something you do that's silly or embarrassing and turn it into a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the more you can do that, it makes you feel better and everybody can laugh.
Exactly. When the first humor conference I ever went to was in 1983 in Chicago, and it was Laughter, Play, and the Healing Arts. And one of the things, they had this photograph there, and it was obviously after a big storm, and some poor guy had his beautiful little convertible crushed by this big tree, and he had this little sign that he hand painted going, what did he have? It was compact car. Made more compact. Yeah. So obviously he looked at that and he went,
surrendered to it.
God is laughing, I might as well laugh.
Yeah, exactly. I think if more people could do that, that we'd all be better off, you know?
Yeah. And you know, I mean, there's, you know, naturally we get plugged in, we take things seriously. And so part of what I'm teaching with my humor, I have a humor workshop, a teleclass that actually starts Thursday. And so what I do is really help people gain that perspective, learn to use that tool so that they actually have this little breather to remember that life is not serious. We talked about we take humor more seriously so we can take seriousness more humorously.
So can you give us one little tip, like a starting first step with people that really want to learn more about being more humorous?
Well, you know, the first thing is the simplest thing. And the simplest thing is to look in the mirror and laugh in your own face. Because in a certain regard, we take our faces very seriously. And a friend of mine, years ago, he was in real estate, and he came to work one day, and he found out that his partner had gone bankrupt, and my friend lost $90,000. That was back when $90,000 was money, right? He was not amused. And he went into the men's room. He just wanted to, like, you know, take a break and wash his face. He looked in the mirror, and what he saw was
Yeah.
And he just looked at himself and he went, ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. And he laughed on his own face until finally he actually laughed.
It caught him in the inside.
Like starting your car. Ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. It turned over, you know. And that, for him, cleared the entire situation. He never looked back, took his wife out for lunch. He became very successful after that. And if you think about it, how many people will find something that happened when they were 12 or 20 or 25 and they say, that, I've never, it's ruined my life, and they're stuck back there. Yeah. So he was able to do that. And so if we wake up, if you don't wake up laughing, look at your face in the mirror. If that doesn't get you laughing, pretend you're looking at somebody else, and it will.
I think when you first wake up, sometimes you want to do that.
And the idea is, it's interesting that when we smile, it's called the levitational pull, when the corners of your mouth are turned up with a smile like that. You actually change your body chemistry. You actually create hormones that
oxytocin.
Yeah, exactly. Oxytocin, dopamine, all of these. Yeah. So even if you're not feeling, if you're feeling a lousy mood, look in the mirror. You know, people ask the Swami all the time, you know, how can I uplift humanity? Swami says, start by uplifting your own face.
Yeah, smile. Like it's amazing what just a smile, even if you're walking on the street or anywhere, when you smile
Except
at somebody.
the subway in New York. Don't do it.
Well, I haven't been there yet. But I mean, it's amazing how, you know, people just love it when you smile at them.
That's right. It's an international language.
Yes.
That's how Patch Adams does his clowning all over the world. No language. It's just
universal.
His big shoes. That's all.
Yeah, universal.
Yeah.
Oh. So how did you get your start as Swami?
Well, you know, a funny thing happened. I say I got struck by lightning during a brainstorm. This name just flew into my head, Swami Beyondananda. And after closing down our, you know, they all got Ananda. There's Muktananda, Yogananda, Satchidananda, Anandananda, Beyondananda. It just sounded funny. So after I did this paper for tree workers, I decided to branch out. And I did a paper, a holistic magazine in Ann Arbor called Pathways. And this is back in the day when people took their spirituality pretty seriously. And we knew that we needed to add humor. So the Swami character was kind of our mascot. And we started out kind of doing like mock ads. Like, remember Famous Artist School? You know, we're looking for people who want to draw. Have in the back of magazines.
Yeah.
We called it Famous Guru School. We're looking for people who want to draw on higher consciousness. And we had a whole little mock ad, and then we had testimonials like, Dear Swami, loved your leadership training, please send followers. And we had a lot of fun with that. We did Teach Your Dog to Heal, because dogs are natural healers. We had everything you always wanted to know about sects. Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, because unbridled sex can lead to unwanted misconceptions. Anyway. And so we had a lot of fun with this, and people would open up the magazine to see what Swami had to say first. And so when I decided that I was going to do, I took a life-changing workshop about 30 years ago.
Which was?
It was one of the EST-related workshops. It was, I think it was with Werner Erhard and Fernando Flores, and it was about communication. And the challenge of this workshop was, what is it that you're really here to do, and how long are you going to wait to do it?
So kind of finding your dharma?
Yeah. And that's what happened. I went, I'm going to do it. And I've always wanted to do comedy. Now I'm going to do comedy as a full-time career.
And how long ago was this?
1984.
Oh, okay.
Just about 30 years ago. Okay. The end of that year. And so beginning of 1985, I was in the question, how am I going to do this?
Right, yeah.
And so I got the idea that I would begin performing as the Swami. I met Trudy shortly thereafter. Oh. And we hit the road as the traveling Swami and Trudy show. Trudy danced as part of the show.
Oh, okay.
And
so you were a duo team then.
We were a dynamic team.
Okay.
Like Velcro and Velveeta.
Oh.
Same like. They were a dance team on Ed
Valdita.
Sullivan when I was young. But anyway, so that's what happened. And at the beginning, people, well, your thing is about relationship with wealth. What I found is that a lot of the people I'm in front of, the two things that they wanted the most was they wanted to lose weight and they wanted to have more money. So the Swami came up with a single-purpose mantra to help people lose weight and bring more money into their lives. Yeah. And it went like this. Everything I eat turns to money, and my drawers are full of cash.
Well, we'll have to save some of that for the second half.
Oh, the Swami, he's got plenty. He's got way too much to say, so no worries about that.
Good. So, other than looking at yourself in the first thing in the morning, and whether you go and start laughing, what else can you suggest?
The next thing is to remember what it was you used to laugh at. What was funny to you? A lot of times what happens is that people remember, I used to laugh a lot. Why did I laugh that much? The average child, I read this, I don't know how they got the statistic, but the average child laughs 150 times a day. Average adult laughs 15 times a day. If that. Do the math. Do the aftermath.
Don't you think, the aftermath.
Yeah.
Don't you think that you can find humor in anything?
And that's the whole idea, is to begin to see funny, and begin to ask yourself, where's the joke hidden in this picture?
Yeah.
And, the genius at seeing funny is Stephen Wright. He's one of my favorite comedians. And when he was being interviewed, how do you come up with your material? He says, I try to think like a child. Yeah. Because children, again, what humor really is, it's an interaction between the expected and the unexpected. Two things that are not generally put together and related, and humor finds a way to relate them together. Yeah. And so children are not clear on the concept. That's why Art Linkletter was able to make a living when I was a kid doing Kids Say the Darndest Things, because they do.
That was a great show.
Because there's always a misinterpretation. Remember once, years ago, I was dating this woman who had a 5-year-old daughter, and it had been a very, very busy day over at our house, and I come there maybe 8 o'clock or so, and the little girl peeks out of her bedroom and she says, Mommy, who's our next guest? That's how kids think.
Yeah.
We were at a picnic, and there's a little boy, also about 5 years old. He has a dog. He has the dog's tail in his hand, like this, and he's doing this. I said, what are you doing? He says, I want the dog to be happy.
He didn't go this way, but he went
he's wagging the dog's tail. He figured that's going to make the dog happy.
Yeah.
So that's how kids think. So when Stephen Wright writes his material, and part of what we do our class, what we immerse ourselves in, is how would a child see it? If you had innocent perception, you're seeing this for the first time, what would you observe? What would you observe? And so, Stephen Wright's stuff, there's always kind of that little unspoken surprise. He says, I put a skylight in my living room. Boy, are my upstairs neighbors upset. Or he goes to a restaurant where it says breakfast served anytime. He says, I'll have French toast during the Renaissance.
Anytime.
Intentional misinterpretation.
Yeah.
Because what it is that the logical mind wants to proceed in this. That's why jokes happen in threes: a minister, a priest, and a rabbi. Right?
Oh, okay.
Minister, priest, and a rabbi are discussing their legacy, how they want to be remembered when they're gone. When they're laying in their casket, what do they want people to say? The minister says, I want people to say, he was a family man and a pillar of the community. The priest said, I want people to say he was a holy man and a leader of his flock. The rabbi says, I want people to say, look, I think he's breathing. So they give the rabbi the good line. They give the rabbi the surprise. But the point is that number one and number two of the three, they are moving us in a direction. They're building a case. One sets up the premise, number two builds up the premise, and number three upsets the premise. And according to Scott Weems, who's a brain scientist, who just wrote a book called Ha. It's actually a very helpful book. He talks about how the brain processes humor.
Is that an acronym for something?
No, he has a subtitle which
It's the start of the ha.
Yeah, it is. Ha. Yeah, it's an acronym. It's a human activity.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But anyway, so what he's saying is that we laugh in part for a number of reasons. One of the reasons why we laugh is for a release of tension. One reason why we laugh is because we're surprised. We're surprised and delighted. Just like the baby, you're playing peekaboo with the baby. The baby is so delighted that now you see it, now you don't. Well, a joke is a dance with the invisible because the punchline is invisible until the end. Yeah. And we laugh when we're surprised. Now, if I told you that same joke again, unless you had serious memory problems, you would go, you wouldn't laugh as hard because you wouldn't be surprised. You would anticipate the end.
Right.
So part of humor is the surprise element, and we, just as a baby laughs at peekaboo, just as we get older, we love various kinds of puzzles. We love quizzes and tricking the mind and remembering crossword puzzles and all of these things. It's because we want to put things together, and a joke is a way of having things put together in a surprising way.
Do you have any serious jokes?
Any serious jokes? Again, most of my jokes are serious in a certain regard. The more serious a joke, like for example, the Swami does a lot of political material, which he'll do for you if you ask. And those jokes tend to start with something very, very serious. Here's an example. Lenny Bruce, who some people may know who Lenny Bruce was, he was an edgy comedian back in the 50s and 60s. And as bad luck would have it, his first performance at Carnegie Hall was the week after John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And everybody knew he's kind of an edgy comedian, he's kind of a dirty comedian, he's on the edge. He has to say something. What is he going to say about this tragedy? How do you make a joke? How do you make a joke about something like that? Everybody knew he had to do something, but nobody knew what he was going to do. And this joke comes with an asterisk. I will explain it. He comes out on stage, and his first words are, "Wow, poor Vaughn Meader." Vaughn Meader had the #1 comedy record in 1963 called First Family. He did imitations of John Kennedy. His career was gone. Like that, he had no career.
Oh, sure.
And so the way that he was able to joke about something serious was by pointing at a peripheral tragedy. And in fact, Vaughn Meader became an alcoholic, a drug addict, born-again Christian. Maybe a born-again Krishna, perhaps. Maybe he's been reincarnated since then. So he did something that was funny, but it was kind of peripheral. So after 9/11, again, this is like a week later, Trudy and I are heading to a conference in Colorado, and we're at the Denver airport, and a conference should have been canceled. Nobody wanted to be traveling. It was just grim. Everything was grim, and troops everywhere, military, and it was awful, just tense. And Trudy, as she will tell you, did not grow up in a humorous family. She learned humor. And so we're standing around there, and everybody is very depressed, and there's a guy walking by, and he has a dog in this little doggy carrying case. So he puts the case down, he unzips the case so the dog can get some air, and the dog is poking his head around, and Trudy walks up to the dog and she says, "Did you pack your own things today? Did any stranger give you anything?" And the dog's going, and everybody within earshot burst out laughing. And for those people at that moment, it was a healing that took place. Yeah. Because the joke was not about the tragedy, it was peripheral, and yet gave people a reason to laugh.
Well, I'm sure you have made thousands of people laugh with your stand-up, and it's wonderful, and it's a joy, absolutely. And I can't wait to the second half.
Oh, okay. Well, the Swami is out there. He's floating around. His higher plane is circling.
Ooh. Well, he'll have his opportunity. So what other words of wisdom can you give as Steve, as we're emerging into Swami?
Well, you know, on the serious side, I did write this book with Bruce Lipton called Spontaneous Evolution.
Okay.
Our positive future and a way to get there from here. And really and Bruce is a cellular biologist, et cetera, and one of the things that we discovered in writing this book is that if we project evolution out there, the next phase of human evolution is recognizing that we're all cells in the same body called humanity. And the relationship between that and humor is that humor is a way of creating integration and putting paradoxical things together. It's a way of putting things that really don't fit together in a creative way. And we are, as a species, we're in need of leaving our adolescence, or as Swami would call it, addled essence, and getting back to our clear essence. And laughter and humor do that because, in a way, it expands our ability to tolerate things that don't belong together, contradiction, paradox, and in that space of paradox, something new can emerge.
Well, it also kind of helps you get out of that negative feeling of like, oh, I'm stuck in this icky place, you know, I want to get out, but I don't know how. So when you have humor, it can help lift you. And then it also, you know, like you said, it's the chemicals that it releases.
And, you know, some of the, you know, one of the things that I do in my classes is I have people create alter egos that are exaggerations of themselves.
Yes.
So sometimes the alter ego is the exact opposite of the way they would be. But sometimes what you do is, if they're complaining, you just amp it up and make them complain even more. You know, make it harder, make it more intense, exaggerate it until you exaggerate it so much that you just burst out laughing.
Right, right.
A friend of mine had a mother who, she was one of these people who just was always complaining about anything. And he's on the phone with her, and literally she's complaining about how she's suffering with this hangnail. Literally, that's what it was, a hangnail. And so what he does is he turns his sound way up. He goes, "Wow, how can you live with that?" And she's really quiet, and then she says, "Well, it's not that bad."
Putting things in perspective pretty fast.
That's right. That's what humor does.
Yeah.
That's the potential.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, oh my goodness, any other wisdom that you can give our audience and our viewers tonight?
Well, I would say that find the kind of humor that you really love and immerse yourself in it. You know, when we first moved to this area, we went to a doctor, and he specifically would write prescriptions out for people. He said, "Go see Waking Nid Divine."
Okay.
You know? And we went and saw it because he wrote it out in the prescription.
Right.
And we laughed and laughed and laughed. And we forget that to do that. We used to have, when I lived in Michigan, we'd have these comedy potlucks, and we'd have people bring their favorite comedy records or videos or whatever. We'd eat first. Never want to watch comedy while you're eating. Don't want to upchuckle. No. And we'd have our meal, and then we'd sit down, and people would share the things that they thought were funny. Laughing is a social activity.
Right. What do you think about sarcastic humor?
Well, you know, I think that humor can be aggression thinly disguised, bitterness. And, you know, in a way, it's I mean, I've had my cynical side myself, and I've been sarcastic. And, you know, having this Swami character for the last 28 years or so has changed my sense of humor. It's softened it, and I realized that I want to welcome people. I want it to be open-hearted. I don't want to push people away with it.
You're not in New York anymore.
I'm not in New York anymore. I'm not in New York. I went to New York. This is after I left. And I forgot that I used to live there. And a friend and I went to the movies. We went to see Raging Bull, okay, good New York movie. And it's a crowded theater. There's a guy sitting with an empty seat on one side and an empty seat on the other. So not knowing I'm in New York, I say, "Excuse me, would you mind moving over one seat so I could sit next to my friend?" And the guy says, "Look, I didn't come here to be nice."
Ooh. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I got it. And so he and I sat on either side of him, and we talked through him like he wasn't there. And finally, he got up and left.
That's one way to do it.
You got to know your customers.
Oh, goodness. Oh, Lordy. So what do you think that your humor is? Wisdom and humor. You've got so many wise things.
Well, I think I started out as a wise guy, and maybe through the Swami got to be a bit of a wiser guy. But I think that one of the first shows I did in a comedy club setting, I was in Chicago in a mob-run club called the Limelight, which I called the Slimelight. And they didn't pay me, so the next day I had to collect money from the mob. That was fun.
Oh, I can imagine.
I was successful, but it was fun. But that night,
And you're still here.
That's another story. So that night, I'm doing my comedy. There's 3 drunk guys, and they're being very obnoxious. And finally, I'm in the Swami guys, and I said, "You know, I think you're baiting me. And when you bait a great spiritual master, you know what that makes you? That's right, a masturbator." And everybody laughed, and the 3 guys kind of slunk off and left. And I said to myself, you know I can do that, but I don't want to do that. Yeah. And so I decided that I was going to pick venues where people felt safe enough to be defenseless, so my humor could be defenseless. You know, people ask the Swami questions. I don't insult people. I never insult people. Mm-hmm. And, even when people are obnoxious. So I once did a show, and it's rare. One of the rare traits these days, it's an old-fashioned trait, pompous. And this guy is pompous, and he stands up, and instead of asking the Swami a question, he delivers a poem.
Oh.
And he kind of gives me kind of like Oliver Hardy. And I said, well, I couldn't have said it better, and moved on to the next guy. In other words, it's like a keto. You don't give that any energy, you move the energy someplace else. Right. And comedy is a way to do that. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was really a master at that.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, he was in a debate with somebody, and his opponent called him two-faced. He said, if I had 2 faces, would I be using this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's putting it in perspective.
Putting it in perspective. Mm-hmm. So it creates defenselessness.
Right, right. How's our time going? I'm getting anxious for Swami to come on.
Oh, he's good with anxiety. He's perfect.
We need the 30-minute mark coming up here.
Okay, well, we still have some time.
Okay.
Time is
good.
I think we do.
Time is of the essence.
If not, we're going to get a new supply tomorrow. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was once doing this church service, and sometimes people get very nervous with time. And they had something happen where they were running behind, and the minister says, we're running 15 minutes behind. We have to end exactly at noon. So I told the people, folks, we're running 15 minutes behind. We have to end exactly at noon. Everybody, please turn your watch back 15 minutes. And it absolutely worked.
Well, speaking of which, it's time to bring on Swami.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to find the phone booth. If there's
yes,
such things
you
anymore.
go find the phone booth,
okay.
And I'm going to switch this to our wonderful audience here. We need the mic, and actually I'd like to see where our audience is from, and if you'd like to share, because we have about 3 minutes, and maybe you have a joke that you want to tell. So we have Stu Zimmerman.
Yes, that's me.
You have your own show down in Santa Barbara.
I do. I co-host a show called Get Conscious Now, so we are kindred spirits.
All right. Wake up. Yeah. Wake up to consciousness. Wake up to awareness on all levels.
Indeed. So I've got a brief joke I'll share.
Oh, please.
So CNN gets wind of perhaps the most holiest and most devout man in the world, because they hear that he is going to the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, and praying every day, 3 hours a day, rain or shine, and he's done so for 40 years. And so Anderson Cooper says, I got to interview this guy. So they bring the whole camera crew and everything out to the Western Wall, and sure enough, they see the old man rocking back and forth with a couple of tears coming down his face. He closes his book, and he goes to turn away. And then Anderson Cooper and everybody descends upon him and says, "Sir, is it true? Are you the most, some people consider the most devout man in the world because you're here every day, 3 hours a day, praying, rain or shine?" "Yes, it's true." "Well, sir, may we ask, what exactly do you pray for?" "I pray for all the people in the world to be one family again and to love this world as a beautiful playground we can all live and play in harmony." "Well, sir, that's absolutely beautiful to have that sense of heaven and on earth and peace on earth. How do you feel after coming here every day for 40 years, 3 hours a day, praying for peace on earth, right here at the Western Wall?" "I feel like I'm talking to a freaking wall."
Yes. Hello.
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 So that's
Oh
what I
my
had to
goodness.
share.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. We have Swami Beyondananda back in Bullwinkle. Yay. Oh, well, Trudy must getting, yes, the assistance here of getting the costume in the right place. All right. Swami, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh.
Well, I know that you have some wonderful, wonderful wealth, wisdom, since my show is about raising the consciousness around wealth. So please,
Okay. Well, of course,
the drum roll.
Well, I will start with this. First of all, our great, did you know that the word wealth and health come from the same root? So wealth is about well-being. It's about being well. And, we have had this whole thing about money. Many of the great spiritual teachers have predicted that we would have a moneyless society. And look at how many people have a head start.
Yes.
No, they have the trickle-down theory. You know about that?
Yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah,
right.
the wealth is up there. Some of it trickles
Oh,
down.
well, yeah, too much is up there.
Too much, and that's why they call the people at the bottom, they call them peons.
Oh, oh.
Hopefully something will trickle down on them,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, showers of gold, look at that.
Oh, goodness.
No, listen, it's true. So,
Yes, I know, too well.
but and of course, I'm nostalgic for the good old days. Remember the good old days when people robbed banks? Remember that? Now it's the other way.
It used to be the Westerners, the cow, in the Western
Now it's
days.
the Easterners from Wall Street. That's who it is. But you see,
Oh, yes, for years.
in a certain regard, it's okay that all of this false wealth, the house of credit cards economy, the derivatives of derivatives of derivatives, okay, selling futures in no future, it's all come apart.
Yes.
And the real wealth is this. The real economy is four things. It is the food that comes from the earth.
Absolutely.
It is the
Organic.
power from the sun, infinite for our purposes, and what we human beings bring to it is love and imagination, so that we create good goods and greater goodness. And what I love about being right here in Marin is the consciousness. A
Amen.
consciousness about the environment, about solar energy. Did you know right here in Marin, somebody actually opened up the world's first solar-powered tanning salon?
Okay.
Yeah, it's outdoors.
I was going to say there's a lot of firsts in Fairfax. I think by 2020 they're going to be totally all ecologically correct.
Oh, well, they might be correct. Well, I think one of the things that's happening is that people are becoming aware of this and recognizing that we have a local economy, locally grown food. That is very, very important. Okay, and if you look at so
No
many
GMOs, please.
I have to tell you something. I was very apathetic about the whole GMO thing, and then something happened.
What happened?
I went into a restaurant. You know what they had?
Uh-oh.
Chicken apple sausages. I said, chickens and apples, they should not be doing that together. I'm sorry. This is not in, I can't even imagine how they would do it, and that's how I've become very active now in that. We want real food
Yes.
for real people.
Yes.
We don't want it interacting and changing our biology in unfortunate ways.
Yes, that's right. Oh boy.
But I think that one of the things that we have to realize is that the real economy is good goods and greater goodness. And
Love.
we are. That's right.
Love, 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 love.
Yeah, that's-
Unconditional love.
You know,
You know what? People don't even know what that means.
Oh, listen, I'll tell you the relationship between unconditional love and money.
Oh, please.
I tell people all the time, if you buy my stuff, I will love you unconditionally.
That's the old paradigm.
Oh, well, I got a pair of dimes to show for it. That's good. I got a pair of new dimes to show for it, yes.
Oh, goodness. So you do have something to share with us about wealth and
Well, I think I do have something.
and money and yeah, from the deep Swami.
Well, from the deep Swami. You
Yes.
know, I don't have a problem with money. Without money, I still have problems, but I don't have any problem.
When you
with-
have money, you have problems.
No. I think that what is perfect about the whole money situation is that now we are having to really recognize that really what it is energy. It's just energy
Total
moving
energy.
back and forth.
Yes, it is.
And you know, recognizing when we are dealing with money like everything else, we have the choice: do we feed love or fear?
That's right. And,
And the-
most people feed fear.
Well, it's called scarcity.
Yes.
Scarcity. That's where you're afraid you don't have enough. When life is truly abundance, that is where we get up off of our assets, move our buns, and dance together to turn the funk into function and leave the junk at the junction. That's what the real economy is. Every moment we have the choice. Do we feed love
Yes.
or do we feed fear?
That's right.
Good news, love is more powerful than fear.
Yes.
Otherwise,
amen.
we'd be singing, all you need is fear. She fears you, yeah. We're not singing
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
And that's a good
That's
thing.
right.
Yes.
Yes. Love, love,
Yeah.
love. So how can we get more love and not be so hung up on the money?
Well, I think first of all, we have to actually tell the truth about what has happened. And what has happened is that a very, 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 very small percentage of the uncommonly wealthy have taken hold of the Commonwealth. And so it's not easy for people to have money when the resource has already been taken. So the way that we take back money is we begin to trade among ourselves. We
That's
begin
right.
to share
Community
value.
in
Yeah.
the community.
That's right.
That's
Community.
We need to have a community bank. We need all the community to work together and
That's right.
create all that we need.
Yeah. And I think that would be very, very valuable to have something like that. Now, I have something, well, you know, I've been thinking about nothing for a long time. I have nothing over there, but I can't get nothing. But that would be something if we were selling nothing. Wouldn't that be powerful?
You know, I just want to say to our audience, if the audience has any questions, please, we only have a few minutes left, 10 minutes.
That's
So
all we have?
That's all we have.
Are we getting more time tomorrow?
Oh
There's
my
a
God.
question.
How do you make something out of nothing?
How do you make something out of nothing? I am learning how to try it. I created a box of nothing. And so I've been, for years, I've been selling these boxes of nothing. That is how we create something out of nothing. And then we get other people to sell this nothing to their friends. That would be something. I didn't bring nothing. Could you imagine that? Somebody can get nothing from me, but nobody can get nothing.
You don't put pictures in your nothing box?
Oh, I put nothing in my nothing
You
box.
put nothing in
I put
there.
nothing. No, but seriously, I think one way that we can get something out of nothing is by using less than we do.
Oh, totally.
You know,
Not buying more than you can afford.
yeah, because it is a rule of biology. The more you buy, it's called you buy until it's buy money. Okay, so it's important to recycle. It's
Oh.
important to reuse.
Yes, and mend things that need mending instead of throwing them out
Yes.
or recycling them. Yes, yes, yes.
And you know, people say, Swami, do we create our own reality? Well, we used to, but now it's mostly made in China, you know.
Does anyone
Oh,
have a
we have to
question?
change that.
We have to, yeah, we have to change that. So another question? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Well,
okay,
maybe you
that-
have an answer, and then I can come up with a question. If you have an answerable question, I have a questionable answer. It could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about wealth. Yes?
How do we make light of ourselves?
How do we make light of ourselves? Anybody got a match? No. Listen, I think that that levity is the best way to overcome gravity. And so when you feel like something is bringing you down, the simplest thing to do is just go like this. As I said, levitational pull. Levity. You know, and just simply like that, you're already smiling, and then your whole demeanor changes, and you're not as demean as you were.
I have a question for you. Who handles your money, Steve, Swami, or your wife?
Oh, well, well, first I'm trying to find the money to handle. That's the first step. No, actually, I pretty much, the Swami carries no money. The Swami carries no money. So
He doesn't need money.
I don't need money.
Oh.
I don't need money.
No, there's enough love and humor in there for life.
Until I want to buy something. I don't need money till I want to buy something.
So what does the Swami like to buy?
Well, let's see. The Swami does eat. The Swami
food.
Now it's true. I went to the Ascended Masters Golf Tournament up in the Himalayas, as you know, and they have breatharians up there. You know, who they only eat
breatharians.
They don't eat food. You know about that?
Okay.
They exist on breath. Okay. And somebody, a wise entrepreneur in the Himalayas, opened up a breatharian restaurant. Well, they don't have any food.
So there are different flavors of the breath?
Well, they got good breath and bad breath. Good breath is more expensive. But the breatharian restaurant, I tell you something, they don't have any food. But the atmosphere, terrific. So I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting in the back. I see 3 guys walking by. Close my nose just like this. They were fasting. One of them, you won't believe this, one of them, he is so evolved, he doesn't drink water. He exists on breath alone.
Oh my.
No water.
Is he
you know what his
still
name is? Pierre. Now there's a guy that doesn't need an economy, I'll tell you.
Does anybody else have any questions that you want to share with us and help us laugh some more?
Okay. I got a question. What about the government? What can the government and politics do?
What can they do?
Oh my God.
What can they do? Well, I'll tell you something. It's not really up to them. You know, I had the campaign Swami for President because, you know, as you know, 6 years ago or 7 years ago almost, we thought we had political climate change. And we had a new president, Barack Hussein Obama. Finally, we could say America has a President Hussein. And now the hopium has worn off, hasn't it?
Yes. Well, he has done a lot.
Well, he has, but we have to recognize that we have 2 political parties. You know that there is a difference between the 2. Yes, the Republicans, they bend over backward for the bankers and special interests.
Believe me, they're the ones that run our world.
Well, but the Democrats, bankers, they're completely different. They bend over forward. Totally different.
Oh,
so it is up to we the people to take left and right and come front and center.
That's right.
Because we've been divided into these 2 political tribes, the red tribe Republicans, blue tribe Democrats, spending all their energy arguing about whether it's worse to kill the born or the unborn.
They need lots of love.
Well, what they need is exactly that. They need to sit, red tribe and blue tribe, to sit in sacred circle and talk until they're purple in the face.
That's right. That's right. Yes. You said it. Yes, yes.
Because only by standing together as one purple people will the peeps outnumber the perps. We can actually counterbalance the socio-pathogens in the body politic.
Oh my goodness. Well,
And you're well familiar with that,
too familiar.
having worked in the corporate world. A lot of these corporations, they don't pay taxes. They figure they live offshore, come onshore just to feed. And they figure they'll pay the legislators directly.
So
eliminate the middleman, you know. Why pay taxes?
We have almost 3 minutes left.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to say anything from our wonderful audience, please.
Would you like more questions? Any more questions? Something that's been puzzling you? Ask me, have it puzzle me as well.
What do you think about embalming?
What do I think about embalming? You know, of all the things that I think about, that is not one of them. You know, although I have stopped using preservatives in my food, so no, that's a question I've never got. What do you think of embalming? I mean, are you thinking that maybe this is something that we all might want to do?
Incinerating's better.
Yeah. Incinerating. Okay, well, that's right. We'll go up in smoke. Be up in smoke. You know, and really that's a much more useful thing because we are leaving this dimension. You know, I'll tell you something. People say, Swami, many people are dealing with aged relatives who are in some other dimension. That's why they call it dementia, right? You know, I actually spend half of my time in the space of all time, which they call Alzheimer's. Do I have a time to say one more thing?
Yes, you do, and then I've got to close.
Okay, you got to close. Okay, well, I will say namaste and namaste go. Goodbye.
Thank you for being here and sharing. And I want to thank Marin TV for facilitating our show, and especially to my crew, Eric, Brad, Cynthia, Mary, and Jack. And please support and become a member of Marin TV. Bye for now. Until the next time.